Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's Insight Expert or Expert Insight series. So as you know, each week we discuss various opportunities and topics around, relevant topics to the community, and with a great focus on international investment and immigration, specifically to Mauritius. So last week, those of you who attended our discussion, we spoke about what the process would be if you chose to invest or work in Mauritius. How do I move my business? And we leaned on the expertise of other business owners that have already gone through this process, who've already moved their businesses, and what their expectations are and how they've been met. So a very, very big part of looking at immigration and investment is, of course, selecting the best possible location for you to move yourself and your family, especially if you're coming from South Africa or any other country and you don't know the area very well. And at the moment, there are a number of different developments that you can choose from. So it like living in a South African residential estate, it is so important to find the best possible environment for you and your family. So before we get going on today's webinar, I just want to quickly run through a little bit of housekeeping with you and just to tell you how we can create this experience more interactive. At the bottom of your screen, you will see that there is a box called chat. If you click on that and you select everyone, you'll be able to see a number of questions, and you can also ask your questions. We have our panelists with us on the stage, but in the background there's a number of keyboard warriors, which is what we call them, that are here to answer your questions if we don't cover them in the presentations today. Please use that. It's a wonderful tool, and it will give you the kind of information that you're looking for sort of at your fingertips. We will also be hosting a number of polls. Once the poll question pops up on your screen, you can answer that poll question, and then please just click on the red toggle. There's one that's come up now. You can have a look, answer the poll, and then you just click on the red button, and then it will just take that screen away. So let's get going. Let's introduce our panel. We've got an exciting morning ahead of us. So when we looked at Mauritius, we wanted to identify what is an environment which is most suitable to a family. You know, whether you're coming in as a retiree or you have young children, you need access to schools, you need access to shopping malls, facilities. And we identified, along with the support of our teams, that Mont Choisy is one of those developments. It's almost like the Val de Vie, and I hate to say that, but the sort of Val de Vie of Mauritius almost, if you look at the imagery that we'll see later on today. So representing this development is Jonathan Tagg, who's the project manager at Pam Golding International. They are the team that are behind the sales and marketing of the development. And of course, Garrett Fitzgerald, who's the head of projects at Mont Choisy, which is a very important position, seeing that development has been under construction for some time and has a few more years to go, but has been delivering and selling at an incredible speed and has been extremely popular with South African investors. So let us not delay any longer. We're going to start off by having a quick look at what Mauritius has to offer you, what the Grand Baie area has to offer you, and the support systems that Pam Golding has if you are looking to invest or emigrate. Clem, if you could just put our first video on. That really does look amazing. So let's get our presentation material up. And Jonathan, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Louise. Thanks for hosting us. So I'm going to just sort of focus today on Grand Baie, and I'll also be focusing on sort of the investment part of buying into Mauritius. So just sort of starting out, you'll see in the background, in our background, that is Grand Baie. So it's a very, very popular tourism and residential destination. Was probably the first sort of area that the coastal sort of development happened on the island. And it's where our office is based, and it's sort of a predominant part of our real estate portfolio. Sits in the Grand Baie area. I'm just going to ask Emmy to go to the next slide. Clem, to the next slide. Just to give you a location, you can see Grand Baie is up on the top part of the island, the north part of the island. And you have Port Louis, the capital, sort of midway down. So it's a north location. Mont Choisy sits on the northwest side of Grand Baie, an area that has beautiful reefs, a lot of shopping infrastructure, a lot of leisure and tourism activities, and an area that's really growing from a residential point of view. Clem, the next slide. So what we've been doing on the island, Pam Golding's been on the island for about 20 years, and part of our business on the island is Mauritius Residency by Property Investment. So this scheme has been running successfully for 15 years. It's a fairly simple residency program. I think it's a lot less complicated than a lot of the other residency programs that are available globally. It has no visitation requirements, which is quite important. It's not like you have to be on the island for extended periods. Once the property is purchased and the residency application is made and you have residency, there are no further requirements. There's no language tests, which is quite a big one. Some of the other countries have language tests, which can sometimes prove a little bit complicated for people. And the simple requirement is you need to purchase property in a development with a value of at least $375,000 or more in an approved development. And once you've purchased the property and you've taken title to the property, the residency is for the purchaser, their spouse, and children under the age of 24, or whether they're dependent or not. And recently we also had the addition where residents can now bring their parents into the residency program as well, which was quite a big addition to this program. Part of our business on the island is really to look at doing developments that offer prime locations like Mont Choisy. That's where Grand Baie, I think, is a big benefit. It's really a prime location, and Mont Choisy is in a really prime location in Grand Baie. We like to work with reputable developers. I think it's really important, particularly when you buy something off plan, that you look at who you're purchasing from, what are their track records, what else have they built, do they have a sustainable business, can you rely on them for follow-up and any sort of additional work that might be required after you've purchased the property. And then rentability as well. So we have a number of different purchases that come into the process. It's finding more and more relocators, which is great. So people who buy a property to relocate and spend 3-6 months or the full year on the island. But also we still have a lot of investors who are looking to externalize some funds into Mauritius, and their rentability becomes really important. And Grand Baie continues to be the most sort of rentable area, continues to attract the largest group of foreign relocators. So, and Mont Choisy, with all its services, is a highly rentable location. So again, one of the sort of key things we're looking at when we're selecting property for our clients is, just to ensure, prime, reputable, and certainly rentable. So how the process really works is a consumer would come into, let's say dealing with us, and we would select a property for them. They would purchase, and then once the title deed is signed, we would then make the application for the client to take up residency. That would require some documentation, but as I said, it's not a very administrative process. And about 2 months after we made the application, the client and their dependents on both sides, parents and children, children and parents, would have the residency done. Clem, next slide. So we also saw in 2019, we saw some improvements to the residency program, which was fantastic. It added to what the previous rights were to residency. So now you can actually move to the island and work with your permanent residency. So there's no longer a need to go through a separate application. You can also easily pick up a work permit through your residency. So no longer need to either apply from a business or a work point of view once you have residency. And as I said earlier, you can now bring your parents as dependents, which has made a big difference to how a lot of people look at the scheme. I think it allows you to ensure that when you do move to Mauritius, you're not leaving family behind if they'd like to move with you. And just a small note there that the residency is linked to the property. So as long as you hold the property, you hold the residency. If you do sell the property, then you do lose the residency. But one of the big draw cards and sort of future growth in value of the property is the fact that the person you sell to will also be able to access residency. We do have a lot of clients who do upgrade, and there's actually a way of, if you do purchase and then you decide you want to rebuy, it's quite a sort of simple process to take your residency from the property that you're selling to the new property that you're buying. So we have a lot of consumers who come in and they will buy something maybe small to start with, spend some time on the island, and when they decide to move or spend a lot longer on the island, they often upgrade, and that process we can also manage. Clem, next slide. So I think a lot of people, when they come to look at property, are always sort of most interested in the area that they're buying. I think it's kind of one of the things in property, you always try and buy location. You look at that first. And this just gives clients a good idea of the Grand Baie area and where Mont Choisy is located. So it is an incredible site, having 500 acres sitting right on the boundary of Grand Baie on the one side, and then you've got the Mont Choisy sort of Trobiche area on the other side, which are two very, very popular tourist areas, 5-star hotels, and lots of sort of services, restaurants, entertainment, bars, gyms, a whole host of services. And then the two main big shopping centers in the area being the Mont Choisy Mall, which is on site at Mont Choisy, and the La Croisette shopping mall, which is just a little bit east of the site. So, and then you've got some other attractions there. Most people know the Royal Palm Hotel, but you've also had the Trobiche Hotel, the Cannoneer, the Club Med, and a host of other hotels. And then you've also got Mont Choisy Beach on the west side of the site. So from the site, you can access the Mont Choisy Beach, which is a really big one. Clem, next slide. There's just some pictures here of the Grand Baie area. I think this kind of is what makes Grand Baie very popular. I think as the north part of the island arguably has the nicest beaches on the island. You've got Grand Baie, the big bay basically, that centers the area. It's pretty much become a sort of boat destination. You've got the yacht club for those that want a boat, and it's a very sort of popular activity from here. You've also got the islands north of Grand Baie, so there are a whole host of islands that the boats can go out and spend time on, and it's actually quite an easy area to boat as well. And then, as I said, you've just got two pictures there of Mont Choisy Beach, which is the beach that's almost immediately available from the site. Clem, next. This is just some of the infrastructure, some of the sort of facilities available in Grand Baie. The one on the top is the La Croisette shopping mall, which is a fairly large shopping mall that sits in the north. Has quite a lot of the South African brands. You can see Nando's, Mug and Bean, Woolworths, and then a host of French brands as well. Quite a convenient thing. And then you've got the Mont Choisy Mall, which sits on the Mont Choisy site. Really, really good restaurants, sports shops, and a whole lot of sort of nice boutiques, delis and stuff that are in the Mont Choisy shopping mall. So you've got really, really good retail around the Mont Choisy area. And the other big one is the Super U shopping center, which a lot of people know. And then what we have seen happen in Grand Baie, which is fantastic, is we're seeing, a host of new facilities being built. So I think a lot of people come back to Mauritius sort of 5 years later and often surprised by the development. So those that are very sort of exercise focused, the big one is the RM gym up in the north. Must have sort of 10 paddle courts, squash courts, tennis courts, golf simulators, a whole host of workout activities, yoga, gyms. Become a very popular gym structure, must be at least 2,000 square meters under roof. So really, really 5-star gym structure. We've got the yacht club on the bottom right, and on the top left is just a host of different restaurants. I think you can probably eat at a different restaurant, a different day of every day for a year, and you wouldn't have to eat at the same restaurant. And you've got fine dining all the way through to simple street cafes that are really nice and the guys enjoy. From a school point of view, we're seeing a lot of families relocate. I mean, we've just popped 3 schools onto the screen here. So it's just, you've got Lighthouse, which kind of works on A levels. You've got Northfields, IPS working on Cambridge, and then you've got another school, it's Green Coast, which is another school up in the north. So from a school point of view, these schools have been in place for a long time. I think because the north has been the first area that foreigners kind of relocated to, the schools are quite well set up. And I think Mont Choisy are also in the process of looking at schools. So it's highly likely that they will also do a school on their site. So from an education point of view, quite well covered. The next thing, because we do attract a lot of retirees and families, obviously the medical part of it is very, very important. Mont Choisy will be moving one of the clinics onto their site. So the main sort of private clinic is moving onto the Mont Choisy site and has started construction, but there are a number of other clinics in the area for medical care, which is important when people relocate families or if retirees are relocating. Clem? So just looking at, I think it's often, this is one of the questions we ask, who's kind of looking to purchase in Mauritius. And we have a host of people looking, but this is just a sort of a summary of what we find. With the first sort of client would be the retired client. They possibly have a place in Cape Town or in Paris or in London. And are now looking for a different destination for part of the year. A lot of South Africans looking to escape the South African winter, and we have the same thing with the French looking to get out of their winter into the summer. So those two areas complement us quite well. And the retired clients generally lock up and go, but often also looking for homes. Their price range is sit at about $300,000 up to about $3 million. And that's been a very, very big part of our market over the last 15 years that we've been operating. Then the second market would be families. We're seeing a lot more families move to the island. So that's, I've been here 16 years. And I think in the last 5 years, that's been the major change to our market, is that a large number of families, I think, maybe with COVID, people have realized they're a little bit more mobile. It's an easy place to move from. So if husbands are still working back into Africa or into other parts, Mauritius is quite an easy place to have the family and to travel from. Relocations, I think, are kind of, that's a much broader market, but we have people, sort of corporate type people, moving businesses, or individuals relocating. The swallows, which are pretty much like the retirees, similar sort of trends. They are moving around and they would choose Mauritius for sort of 3 to 4 months a year. very often would put the property back into a rental pool and look to supplement revenue when they're not utilizing the property. And then the last consumer is an investor. These are guys looking to move money out of South Africa, France, UK, into a different destination. And I think very often our investors have a longer term sort of mindset. So they might come into the market now because they can buy good value, possibly the rand's reasonable, or the euro's a good level, and they will go and buy out of their own countries, look to put it into a rental pool, and then possibly occupy in sort of 5 to 10 years time. So those guys got a sort of forward thought process of, let's buy something now, and when we need to utilize it in a few years' time, thankfully they'll have some growth. They've got revenue from the property, and they've secured something reasonable. And very often it's just looking to, as I said, take funds out of the environments they're in now and look to redeploy into Mauritius. Clem? Anyway, I'm going to hand over to Garrett. He's going to take over. Thank you, Louise.
Thank you so much. Just a quick question, maybe before we pop on Gareth, and I'm sure you can also answer this question. A lot of what Jonathan mentioned, there is a number of times you've mentioned the word rental pool, getting a return on your rentals. You have been there for a number of years. Are you seeing that there is a shift from Mauritius being a traditionally holiday destination, where I imagine the rentals are quite seasonal, to there being a higher level of occupancy?
Yeah, so look, I mean, Mont Choisy in particular is a very highly occupied estate. We have probably 70% of the properties in the current phase are occupied. So you've got they're either occupied by tenants, and as an estate, very, very popular. Very, very difficult to actually find a place in the estate now, but the whole Grand Baie area is very popular as a rental area because of the infrastructure that's available. But we are seeing more of it. We are seeing a lot of guys shifting to investments, as I said there. I think what's happened is, with interest rates and the banks going down quite substantially, I think investors historically would have looked to get sort of, 5 to 10% out of their sort of investments, and a property wasn't that attractive. It's sort of 3 to 4% or maybe 5% if you bought the right property. But I think now people are looking at property a little bit differently. I think people are looking at sort of fixed assets. Also I think there's a swing towards investors wanting to utilize their assets at times. So a lot of guys will buy it, but they'll know they can occupy it in 2 or 3 years' time. So I think money is not purely just investment focused anymore, but you can get a decent return on the island, against what you get in the bank. Because interest rates in the bank here sit at about 0.5%, maybe the right investment in a bank 1%, but on rentals, if you're getting sort of between 3 and 5%, you're obviously doing a lot better than the markets are giving you right now if you want to go for something very, very safe.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, thanks. The guys are doing a bit of a share screen there. So we have a short video. I think we'll be speaking a lot about Mont Choisy now, and it would be nice to show folks what that actually looks like. So Clem, if you'd like to pop that video on, and then Garrett will hand over to yourself. Thank you so much,
Louise.
Clem. Thank you.
Hi, Louise. Well, thanks everyone for joining the webinar. I'll be giving you some information on the smart city of Mont Choisy, and then, of course, the reasons why, we feel Mont Choisy is the right investment or the right purchase for you, your family, and for your relatives. So, Mont Choisy is just over 500 acres of land that we intend to develop out over the next 10 to 20 years. We've completed already 211 properties in phase 1 and 2, and we currently are building out phase 3, which is sold out in La Reserve, and moving into phase 4 very soon this year. Within the estate, we've started construction of CK Clinic, which is the state-of-the-art clinic. It's going to be completed early next year, and it'll be operational by around June, July, which is a great add to our smart city. We are very busy finalizing with the school operator, so we hopefully will be starting to build our first school later this year. And then, of course, all the other components of a smart city, the mixed use, the office, the retail, is all under planning, and all certain properties will go up for sale later this year. So for the smart city, the main reason why we say that the estate is the best location on the island, it's like John said, it's neighboring Grand Baie, it's neighboring Mont Choisy Beach. It's 500 acres of estate living, but next to an urban environment. So you get all the benefits of living next to Grand Baie, entertainment, the hotels, and so forth, the restaurants, but having the luxury of the quiet, the quietness, and the sense of open plan living. Mont Choisy is the only golf and beach estate in the north. So that, it's a championship course designed by Peter Makovich. So it's a really, really state-of-the-art, high-profile golf course. And the properties that we are selling and we're developing within the smart city is more premium, family-orientated villas, apartments, and so forth. So the offering is slightly bit larger than what you can find within Grand Baie. So it's normally for a 2-bed starting at 125, going up to about 175 square meter 2 beds, and then the 3-bed starting from 175 going above 200 square meters, and then you got your penthouses at 300 to 400 square meters, villas, ranging from 350 up to around 600 squares. So it's much larger, it's more premium, more upmarket, and then of course the facilities. So the main aspect that sets us apart from most of our competitors in the north will be our facilities. So living on a golf estate, we've designed our master plan to incorporate running tracks, bicycle tracks, golf cart tracks. We've got horse riding facilities. Of course, we've got the golf. We've got the beach, and then we've just completed our leisure center, which has got a state-of-the-art gym, sauna, hammam, tennis courts, paddle courts, and all those type of offerings. We've got a restaurant at the golf clubhouse. Our Mont Choisy Mall has got a whole array of food offerings and retail offerings. So the estate is really, it's really starting to kick off. We've seen a lot of sales in the last year or two, a lot from South Africans. So phase 3 sold out. Phase 4 we launched around September last year, and we're already at 50% sales. So we're starting construction of the next phase, very, very soon, by around July, August this year. Can we just move on to the next slide, Clem? So we are looking at the smart city now. So that's our smart city master plan. So on the right is Grand Baie, and on the left of the screen is Mont Choisy Beach. Point 7 there on the plan is La Reserve, that we're going to be speaking about today and getting in a bit more detail with the product and its offering. We can go to the next slide, Clem. Just a nice photo to show you the Mont Choisy Beach, which neighbors our property. One of the most popular beaches on the north, and within Mauritius. Beautiful, beautiful beach, lovely for swimming, very calm, and it's very sheltered from the wind as well. This is our main entrance coming into Mont Choisy. So it's called Flamboyant Avenue, and those are the trees that are typically called flamboyant, flame trees. Next slide, Clem. Thank you. So the estate is a 200-year-old estate, so it's got a lot of heritage. You can see by that photo, we've got some nice, very old buildings, some nice chimneys, and we are currently busy completing a big renovation to our Cœur, which is the heart of Mont Choisy. We're renovating the manor house back to its historic form, and that will be open in the next 6 weeks for corporate events, for weddings, and so forth. And then there's a whole bunch of heritage buildings that we are converting into a boutique hotel, like a boutique, a deli, into a showroom, into a real estate office, and to a pop-up store. So there's a whole array of heritage that you can see there. So that's the manor house that we are currently renovating with the nice big white gates. We do have horse riding facilities. We've got a horse stables, we've got a paddock, and we've got trails throughout the 500-acre estate. So that's one of the leisure components and lifestyle components that we have on our estate. You can go to the next slide, Clem. And that's the championship golf course, designed by world-renowned Peter Makovich. So it's a championship course, and hopefully soon we'll be able to host some events. Next slide. So there you see phase 1 and 2. So that's phase 2 that you currently see. It's the island signature villas. We built 15 quite large villas, ranging from around 600 up to 1,000 square meter, homes. We completed this project in 2018, and it was very successful. So our leisure center, we completed and handed over in November last year. It's operational and open to the residences. So it's private. It's a private club for the residents. So whoever purchases within the estate has access to the facility. And now we're getting to La Reserve. So that's showing you the location of La Reserve phase 3 and 4. This is quite an early photo, but we are well advanced in construction and planning to hand over in the first quarter of next year. Next photo. So you can see by the location, we're right next to the bay, and we're at the end of the boulevard. So if you take the time to go onto the website and go through the interactive master plan, you will see the location is prime. You can't beat it. You literally, walking steps away from Grand Baie and restaurants and, the lagoon or Mont Choisy Public Beach. This is the image of our penthouse from our apartments that we are currently building. I think there are about three penthouses still available in phase 4. Yeah, so this will be completed in March next year. A few internals. So we are using premium products, tiles coming from Italy, kitchens being imported from Italy. All our finishes are very high end. Sanitary and tapware is the likes of Hansgrohe, Duravit, Lufin. So it's all European based brands. And you can see by the externals, our architect is a AATG based out of London. They did our master planning and our concept. And then we have our local architect is Macbeth, who's a very well established a local architectural firm. So we've got a really good team on board to deliver exactly what you're seeing. That's another ground floor apartment. So it's very like open plan living, kitchen, living, dining, quite open plan, and then 2 to 3 beds depending on which unit. We do have an array of villas from I would say 350 square meter 3 beds going up to 600 square meter 4 and 5 beds. This is the smaller villa, price starting at around 1.3 million US, sitting on around 800 square meter plot. Same villa. Just a few reference images of the internals. You can go to the next slide. And now we're looking at the fairway villas. So we do have a few villas that are bordering the golf course. So it's got lovely golf course views. Those are around 600 square meter in total, sitting on about 1,500 square meter of land area. And the price there's around 2.3 million US. A few internals. And that's that.
Great, thank you so much. That's wonderful. It looks absolutely stunning. So there's been a number of questions coming in, I can see from our chat room. Let's just talk a little process. So you've identified a unit, whether it's an apartment or a villa, and it's an off-plan purchase. So what is your initial deposit that you need to make?
Okay, so just to show you how the process works. So it can vary a little bit. I mean, if you're buying off plan, so Mont Choisy has been in the market since 2014. So most of the purchases to date have been off plan purchases. So how it would work is a client would do a contracted preliminary reservation. So for a unit to be built, so you put a 10% down, you sign a contract preliminary reservation, which includes your plans, your finishing schedule, the estate's plans, and then the developer will move towards doing title deeds. So that's generally about a 6-month process when we start construction. This is again assuming it's off plan, and when they have drafted the title deeds, which is when you take ownership to the property, you put an additional 15% down. So you pay 25% plus you've got an additional 5% transfer duty, 1% conveyancing fee. And then it's a draw structure over the next approximately 22 months, which is the build period. So the guys build, you pay. They build, you pay. And as I said, it'll take about 22 months to do that process. There is finance available for that process as well. So it's not like you have to just purchase. So we are seeing some more professional couples coming to the process and taking bonds. Yeah, so it's all outlined very clearly. I think when you do purchase, we will give clients payment schedules. They can do all their timing. If it's going to be banking, if they're going to be mortgaging, we can put them in touch with banks. If they need structures, we can put them in touch with management companies, so we can ensure the whole process is taken care of.
So if we, okay, so it's a structured payment process. You obviously have the support, being an established development, you have the support of the bank as well. And I know we're focusing on the phase 4. I safely assume that there are units for sale in the previous phases for those individuals that choose not to purchase off plan?
Yeah, so we are selling. We get occasional resales in phase 1 and 2. So those were the build phases handed over between sort of 3 and 4 years ago. We do get occasional resales. There may be a little bit more value in the off-plan sales. You know, you will for the similar price get a bigger unit, but there's the option for both. I think one of the nice things having built 1 and 2 is that we can show clients when they come out. They come and view. And they do come out to the estates. The advantage there is we can show what was built in phase 1 and 2. But also something important to know, if clients are wanting to move out and they feel they need real estate, what we very often do is we will sell something that's going to be constructed. They will have the residency up front anyway, and they could come and rent. So nothing to stop them accessing the island. It's just a case of whether they want to occupy the unit when they arrive. So obviously if they are looking for that, then we would have to sell them something that's complete, but having the residency, you can come and rent, so you could easily also buy off plan.
Okay, so you can come in on a premium year visa, stay for a year.
You can come in with your residency. So if you purchase today, it would take about 5 to 6 months to get your residency. From the residency, you can also come in that way. So it's actually not that complicated. It's just a case of whether you are prepared to wait for the real estate. Obviously, if you are prepared to wait, there's other advantages. You do get choices in the finish, and there've been a few upgrades to the current phase.
We also allow variations, because sometimes people they don't want to have a copy paste same apartment, so they have an option of changing tiles or choosing different kitchen finish and stuff like that, and any further modifications to make it more livable for them. And
okay, so the idea is to create so that you can have the opportunity to create a slightly more bespoke, within reason,
exactly.
Put that out into the universe quickly, on your unit. Okay, so you've made
on the villas, you do have quite a lot of options. So the villas, there's even a bespoke design option where you can, get involved in making alterations to the villas. So you have a little bit more bespoke on the villas. The apartments, obviously, you've got the square meterage, so there's very little you can do as far as we have seen guys do a few things, but there's not a substantial amount that you can do to the apartments. But the villas, you've got a lot more options,
a lot more flexibility on design and finishes. Yes.
So as you've mentioned in your presentation, one of the major benefits of the location of the area, it's popular with South Africans. So there's a bit of an expat sort of community. You've mentioned its proximity to international schools, shopping centers, etc. You also mentioned that you are planning to move the medical facility closer or into the scheme. What is the timelines around that? And is it a key? Would it be a key ingredient for somebody who's looking to retire? Should they wait, or is medical facilities already quite accessible on the island?
Well, we've already started the construction of CK, which is right next to the mall. So it's within our smart city, and it's within walking distance from phase 4. La Reserve. So we are going to be completing our construction by February next year, and then it'll be a whole fit out process. So it's going to be operational by mid of next year. But from now till then, there's still CK Clinic is currently stationed at La Croisette next door. So they'll be just relocating next year and coming into a state-of-the-art brand new facility next to Mont Choisy Mall.
Okay, fantastic. I think that, if you, as you mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, that they've changed the residency program to enable you to have a 3-generational, family members, so parents and children. One of the questions that came up in the chat, which doesn't actually come up that often, so I would like to ask it, is are you noticing, maybe Jonathan, having been there so long and having had family, are you finding that Mauritius University is very much on the cards for tertiary education?
Yeah, so there are 2 international universities. Middlesex is the one, it's UK based, and the other one's Curtin, which is Australian based. So yeah, I think there's a growing number of people from other parts of the world that are using the universities. We're also finding expats living on the island and now sending their children to that university. They're basically like franchises of the like Curtin, as I said, Australian, Middlesex, UK. So there's a lot more flexibility when families come out that, the children do have access to, another education. I mean, when I first got here, the schools have just grown. I mean, that's what's happened. And I think now the school system's like really, really well catered for. And I think on the university side, those universities, I think, have been there for 5 or 6 years. And I think they'll just continue to get better. And you may find a few others entering the market.
Absolutely. And we did do a bit of a calculation previously to look at education, and we found that the Cambridge education in Mauritius is, if you do the exchange, is very much on par with the cost of a Cambridge education here in South Africa. So I think for parents who have got children at a Cambridge school, it wouldn't be a massive shocker when you move your children across to Mauritius. Jonathan's face might be expressing, he might not necessarily agree with me.
Very similar. But I know it's very similar. I mean, I know what the schools in South Africa cost, and, private schools obviously got really expensive, and here, if you've lived on the island for more than 5 years, the schools become very reasonable. It's just the initial 5 years so there's a sort of cutoff. I think it's 4 years actually. So if you've been an expat on the island for 4 years or more, they're actually, I think the school fees almost half, and then it becomes like way cheaper than South Africa. But there's that initial period. But also, I mean, if people come out when their kids are really small, they've got all the preschools. So there's like a really good, number of preschools that they can join. The junior schools are great, high schools are fine, and then obviously there's options on varsity as well.
And most of it, and you talk about the investing 50% sales already on this particular on reserved or sales on the development. So for those who are interested and are looking at what's remaining, what's available, is there still a bit of a cross section of properties available?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll just tell you quickly through the apartments. You've got 2 different types of 2 beds. You've got one at about 140 and one at about 170 square meters. So there's those options. And then you've got 3 beds at between 235 and 257 square meters. So there are options there as well. And then the villas, as Garrett mentioned, from 350 to about 600 square meters, there are options still available there. Yeah, I mean, there are options available. I mean, prices are still quite reasonable if you look at this development. I think that prices, I think developers have held back a little bit on the pricing because of COVID. So I think if you look at the value, and then you've also obviously got the rand sitting at quite reasonable levels as well, which helps a lot. When people sort of do their numbers, it's just got probably 7 or 8% cheaper over the last 6 months, which is positive from a South African point of view.
Jonathan, what is the starting price of the apartments?
So 440,000 euros is where the It's actually, I think there's one remaining at 420. So 420, 440 on the start. The larger ones at sort of 520, 540. And then the 3 beds from about 670. That's all euros.
And so they would include then a residency with it. So you would be able, and would the team, the development team and Pam Golding assist potential homeowners or investors with that program as well?
Yeah, we run it from start to finish. So obviously through the process of purchasing, the initial documentation, the whole residency program we manage, and then the developers will manage the whole construction program as far as how that gets financed and what have you.
Perfect. So, 45 minutes has come and gone. It goes so quickly. Those of you who would like us to put you in touch with the team, please feel free to drop me an email, louise@estate-living.co.za. We also asked that question during the course of the webinar, and we're happily maybe go into more details. There has been a number of questions that have come through to me leading up to this event, during the course of the event. I will share those questions with the team so they'll be able to answer them directly, especially the ones that were a little bit more personal around taxes and those types of opportunities. So Mont Choisy certainly offers an incredible lifestyle. I mean, there's absolutely no denying the fact. I mean, the beaches, the environment, the facilities, the homes. As I was saying before this webinar, I was born to live in a penthouse. There's just so much on offer with the location and schools. And then, of course, where will you set up office? What is the distances to travel to where you can set up a workspace if you choose to move your business. And I think all of these play a role in the decision that you make when it comes to looking at the island, whether it's for investment or for immigration. So thank you so much, guys, for being with us this morning. Thank you to everybody who joined us live, and for those who are going to be watching the recording at a later stage. We're very glad about your interest, and we look forward to the next edition of Expert Insight, where we continue to explore Mauritius and see what other opportunities there lie as for those who are generally looking to immigrate across. As I mentioned in our previous webinar, we are looking at a roadshow potentially in April. If you are interested, obviously cost dependent, please feel free to email us and let us know. I think this would be a wonderful opportunity to view a development like Mont Choisy, and to really just get a little bit of taste of the lifestyle that Mauritius has to offer. I think, if you go there, or if you've been there, you will realize it is really a slice of paradise. Thank you so much to everyone. And Clem, please feel free to pop that video on for us.